Hello everyone, we are going to be doing a book talk for The State of Grace by Rachel Lucas. This was a young adult standalone book. When I read this, there was no audiobook available. This was published in 2017. It is a contemporary and it is told in first person. From the way as far as the setting goes, I would say it takes place not in the United States. So as far as if it's somewhere in the UK, like England, Wales, London, I don't know. No place was specifically mentioned, but from some of the words, like I will say one word shortly, I know it's something that's usually not said here in America. At least in the context that it was used in the book. The edition that I read was 272 pages. So for this one, we're following Grace, who is a 15-year-old. She has a little sister who's 13, I believe, going on 14. Her mother, it's her little sister, and her mother living at home. And her dad is a photographer for like a nature wildlife photographer and does documentary type stuff or videographer, and so they'll sit down in front of the television and sometimes watch his stuff. So he's away from home quite a bit, and of course that puts a lot of stress on the mother, and she deals with stuff in her own way. In this particular book, Grace is autistic, and one of the things that it talks about is how she basically feels like, and I completely understand this because I have felt this way, where like everyone got a life manual when they were born and somehow hers got lost or never arrived. I'm like, girl, I feel that. So one thing that I about this one too is that you do have a lot of interactions with a horse. Grace has a horse. She goes and she feeds it, she rides it, and things like that. There is this boy that there's a little bit of a romance blossoming, of a young adult romance blossoming as well. And it's a contemporary. We're following Grace's life as she is struggling with her mom making a particular friend, where Grace does not like this friend at all and doesn't want this friend anywhere around her mother or around her house. Wishing her dad was at home, and realizing her sister is keeping some secrets as well, and Grace trying to fit in more with her friends and things like that. So, I mean, that is the book. It's a contemporary, it's a slice of life of someone that is autistic. So, that is the book. What are your content and your trigger warnings? You have alcoholism. That is, and that's what I would say. It doesn't specifically mention it, but I would say alcoholism, as there are certain areas in the book where it does mention Grace's mother turning to alcohol to cope with stuff. So at least alcohol used to cope with grief and stress. You do have a little bit of homophobia mentioned. Nothing I wouldn't say too big, but it is kind of glossed over a little bit. You do have underage drinking to the point that someone has to go to the hospital. That is underage. It is bad. As far as your... Oh, another content warning is you do have a autistic meltdown and autistic shutdown depicted on page. So if that makes you uncomfortable, just be aware of that. It does take part over several pages, because you have the lead up going into it, and then being in the meltdown and the shutdown, and then trying to recover from it. So it does last a little bit. As far as your representation, you have mention of a 13-year-old that sucks their thumb. So if there's any teenagers out there in your life that sucks their thumb, they are represented in this book. Their 13-year-old sucks their thumb. Obviously, where I'm saying that the main character in this is autistic, you do have autism rep. You do also have LGBT rep, specifically female. Female is mentioned. Some other representation, you have Polish is mentioned, as well as ADHD. So a little bit of two different types of neurodiversity representation. And that is the book. So again, my edition was 272 pages. In case you're still on the fence, let me tell you about the words that were in this book so that you'll know whether to give this a pass or if you can go ahead and pick this up. We have the following words: bloody, 17 times. Not as far as the shirt was bloody or it was a bloody wound. It's used more as like the F-bomb here in the United States. That's why I say it's probably in the UK somewhere, or in England or Europe somewhere. We have the word God 31 times, not in religious context. Piss 8 times. The acronym WTF 1 time. Shit 7. The name Jesus 1 time, not in religious context. Hell 10 times. Bitch 7 times. FAG, which can be like the F slur for someone who is gay, can be used in a derogatory term like this, but in this case it is used as cigarette. Another reason why I say this takes place probably somewhere in Europe. So, because here in the US, cigarettes are cigs, cigarettes, things like that. We don't call them with the F. So, the FAG word. And then the other acronym, OMG, 1 time. So, that's the book. Now, I will say this too. I think I will try to add a little bit of, and just tell you whether I liked the book or didn't and what I personally rated it. For me, personally, I did physically own this book, but I have since unhauled it. I gave it 2 stars. I read it for the Autism Reads book club that I host, and for me, I felt like it dragged a little bit, and there's one part that made me uncomfortable where basically a horse is put in danger at some point and is facing some emotional stress and trauma. So that was uncomfortable, but mostly I just felt like this dragged. So for me, was a pass. Was not for me. But hopefully if you decide to pick this up, this will be one that you like. Now, as far as the author goes, I am pulling up the author bio here on Goodreads. It says, Rachel Lucas has written 15 novels for adults and teenagers, including the Carnegie-nominated The State of Grace, which is what I was just talking about here, the top 10 bestseller Sealed with a Kiss, and many more. She is also the author as Rosie Curtis of Sweet Holiday Romance, We Met in December, an Amazon editor's pick. Her novels have been translated into many languages, including Korean, Hungarian, Italian, Turkish, French, German, Latvian, Estonian, Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and more. Let's see. Sign up for, okay, she has a website, rachellucas.com. Find her on Facebook. Let's see. Rachel lives by the seaside in the northwest of England. Another reason why I say this takes place in England. Because, I mean, just because an author lives in England doesn't mean they're going to write a book set in England, but that's usually the case I see. Same thing with the U.S. Oh, you know, unless it's like a historical that takes place overseas or something. But a lot of the times, with the language and the culture that they're trying to add into the book, it's with the country or the continent that they live on, is what I have found. So, in my experience with the books that I've picked up. Okay, continuing on, it says, it says Rachel lives, so west of England with her family and 2 very enthusiastic spaniels. When she's not writing at the kitchen table with a coffee by her side, she's out walking the dogs on the beach or the nearby pine woods. She's a huge Kindle fan. Her 10-year-old self would have been over the moon to be able to carry a whole library around in her pocket. And a lover of sweet, romantic, small-town stories, which is exactly what she likes to write. She's a big Hallmark movie fan. Wanted to be Anne of Green Gables when she was growing up, and Jo March was her literary heroine. Still is. Rachel's books are full of warmth and gentle humor, as well as beautiful small-town settings, which give her readers an escape from every day. Rachel has been described as having a gift for capturing complex emotions and both romantic and platonic intimacy, and writing which exudes positivity and warmth, which has received starred reviews in Publishers Weekly. The British Guardian called her honest, romantic, and hilarious. Her teenage boys think she's a bit disorganized, and that she forgets to cook dinner when she's writing. Luckily, they don't get to leave a review. So I am willing to try some more of this author's work. I specifically want to try some of her adult romances and see what I think of those. So, I don't know. Let me know. Have you read The State of Grace by Rachel Lucas? Have you read anything else from this author? Definitely let me know. Knowing the content and the trigger warnings and the word usage that is in this book, if you are interested in this, did knowing what is contained in this book sway you to go ahead and pick it up, or are you going to give it a pass? Definitely let me know. Talk to me in the comment section below, and until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I will talk to you later.